Hey, don't tell me that people haven't really taken interest in studying this opening. This should be a new opening, guys. And I'm just gonna present a few lines in this video so that at your own free time, you may expand on them. Alright, so I took very keen interest in doing more research about this unpopular opening, which I discovered and presented recently in the video that has popped up in the card above. So this is where you start with a move pawn to d4, and then black responds with pawn to d5, a more standard move to approach the queen's pawn opening, and then you go pawn to h4. When I first saw this opening, which doesn't even have a name by the way, if it does, please don't hesitate to share in the comment section down below. But I was shocked to discover that this opening can also be played in OTB classical games. I mean, Magnus Carlsen has played it before and other strong super GMs, so I think it shouldn't be bad at all. This move pawn to h4 is more like a prophylactic move as well as an early advance, or you can simply call it a waiting move. Well, after all, in most of the games, we do play this pawn to h4 somewhere in the middle game. Anyways, right in this position, you may see knight to f6, bishop f5, knight c6, pawn to c5, e6, and we also try to look at what to do after pawn to h5. So first of all, I was inspired by this response, which is bishop f5. This is what inspired me to make this video, because there's a hidden trap that I'm sure you guys are going to find beautiful and helpful. You begin with knight to c3, wanting to play in the style of the richer Veresov, and also keeping an option of transposing into the Jobava London, maybe with something like bishop f4, pawn to e3, etc. Now let me turn on the Lichess database right here so that I can show you how genuine this opening is. Yes, as you can see, pawn to e6 is by far the most played move here. This is only the third move of the game, and trust me, right here, it's time for black to resign. This sounds funny, but there's absolutely nothing that black can do. We just go pawn to e4. Please, I want you to remember this move. If bishop g6, we have pawn to h5, and g4 is also coming. So you're going to see black taking with his pawn anyways, after which you still go pawn to g4, and on the next move, you're going to trap the bishop. This opening is so underrated, you guys. It's something to pay much attention to. Let's look at another line. So back to this position, once you realize that black has just played pawn to e6, you still go pawn to e4. Now this time you might not see them taking with the d pawn. They might play bishop takes e4. Well, you just start hunting this bishop. If bishop g6, you have h5, they will go bishop f5 again. You keep on chasing this bishop until it gets trapped. So this is one little trick in this opening that you can try out, by the way. So let's see other possible lines. Okay, so d4, d5, and then we just play our prophylactic move pawn to h4, signifying that we don't even want to castle shot anytime soon. We want to start expanding on the king side. Given a chance, then black plays bishop f5, we go knight c3. Here we saw that pawn to e6 is the top played move by far, but black can also try to play other moves. Knight c6, which is the second most played move anyways. An important hit to always remember, just never think of developing your knight to f3, because we still keep the possibility of trapping black's light squared bishop in case of pawn to e6. We'll still go pawn to e4, f3, g4, h5. So always keep that in mind. No knight f3 in this opening. Alright, now you still go pawn to d4, they play pawn to d5. Again, h4, our weird looking move. Now, just to be honest, you are not going to see bishop f5 right in this position. The most played move by far is knight to f6. This is what you're going to see your opponents playing. Now, what do you do against this? You just simply go knight c3 once again. So always remember, the first piece to develop should be the queen's knight. Now let me turn on the Lichess database, just like I did in the last video where I featured this part. Alright, so we see that from here, black will just be playing the top played moves, and that's what we want. Now, this is when you see bishop f5 after we play knight c3, okay? So bishop f5 is the top played move here. And this is when you play bishop g5, intending to remove this knight from the game. I mean, if h6, we're going to take it. Now, look at this. Again, pawn to e6 is by far the top played move. If they play pawn to e6, it is time for you to remember the first trap that I showed you in the introduction of this video. That's why I started with that. And that's another reason why we play bishop g5 on move number 4 in order to pin the knight to the queen. So right in this position, believe you me, black has to resign because of this move, pawn to e4. This is a good move because, again, the bishop is almost trapped. Let's say if d takes e4, we simply go pawn to g4, attacking the bishop. If bishop g6, the bishop will be trapped after h5. So black has to take, thinking the bishop is protected by the knight, but we just take the defender of this bishop first, the knight, and here black may think the game will still be equal after bishop takes our queen, but here we still take his queen, and now, ladies and gentlemen, it turns out that white is just up a full piece with a promising position. Oh, bishop takes c2. Yeah, we can still take on c7. There's absolutely nothing that black can do. We're just up a piece. So you can see how trappy this opening is, yet so underrated. Anyways, back to this position. After pawn to e4, aiming to trap the bishop, instead of d takes e4, you may see black taking with his bishop anyways, but here we still go pawn to f3. If bishop g6, h5 is coming, because the knight is still pinned to the queen by our bishop, so bishop f5 is forced. You go g4, it doesn't even matter what black does, the bishop is dead. Did you see that? Anyways, let's look at other things. Again, back to this position, we just played knight c3, the only minor piece that we have to develop in the opening stage. Remember, and black plays the top played move bishop f5. Well, you still go bishop g5 just like I said, and we saw that pawn to e6 is a bad move. But what if black plays knight e4? Well, we just simplify the game by taking. After bishop takes, we go pawn to e3, c5 by black, we just go c3. Look, our dark squared bishop is out of the game. That's why we begin putting all our key pawns on dark squares. And from here, our plans are very simple. Queen d2, castle long, and then we start expanding on the king side. That is if we want, by the way. At some point, we'll even try to exchange these bishops, the light squared bishops. This should be a decent game for you guys. Let's go back. Okay, now we can clearly see that both pawn to e6 and knight e4 are out of the equation. What if black plays pawn to h6 here? What did I say about this bishop? We don't need it. We trade it off. And funny enough, the computer wants black to take with his g-pawn, which is a clear indication that even Stockfish is not very comfortable with this position. They don't want to castle short. But e takes f6 is what you're going to see on human level. Just go e3. They're going to play c6 for whatever reasons. Bishop d3, I mean, simplification is the key in chess, you guys. You lose your games because you keep on complicating your positions. Just go for simplification if there's nothing that you can do, or if you think you have a better pawn structure. Anyways, bishop takes d3, queen takes, knight d7, and then we castle long. So you can see again, one of the main ideas in this opening is castling long. If queen c7 by black, you go e4. Let me take back this move. You know, you guys, if you don't play pawn to e4, forget about it. You are not playing chess. Whenever you have a chance to break through the center, to break open the center, do it. That's the only way to gain an advantage. With pawn to e4, you are the first one to initiate the pawn break, so you should be good to go. If pawn takes, that will be for your own advantage. You're going to have a rapid development. Knight a3, pawn to f3. The king's rook could join the party on e1, and you should be good to go here. For example, we are intending to capture on d5. Black may play knight b6 here, intending to castle long as well. We can just simply take the pawn. After pawn takes, you can already see these ideas as highlighted. You can even develop your knight to f3, start pushing your pawns forward. You are just going to have a normal game. That's why this is not a dubious opening at all. Anyways, so pawn to e6, knight e4, h6 have all been covered. Let's go back. Now, back to this position, you guys. We just finished covering the bishop f5 line, which is the top played move and which is not what you should be afraid of. But after most of your opponents find this video, you will see them playing pawn to e6, avoiding this bishop f5 idea. Now here, Stockfish wants you to play this in the Jobava London style with bishop f4, you go pawn to e3. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I like going crazy. Just go bishop g5 once again, keeping everything very simple. If c5, Because of your early advanced pawn on h4, simplification is the key once again. You just take that knight and see, even in this position, Stockfish wants black to take with his g-pawn and not with the queen. Because of this advanced pawn, Stockfish is not comfortable to castle short. But you're going to see at human level, black playing queen takes f6. Why? Anyways, pawn to e3, c takes d4, e takes d4, knight c6, double attacking our pawn on d4. We play knight f3. Since there is no bishop on f5, now we can play knight f3, defending our d4 pawn. Bishop b4, pinning our knight. This is all what humans play. You go queen d3, bishop d7, you castle long. I mean, in most of these lines, we'll be castling long, just like what we do in the richer various of attack. And then we'll start expanding from the king side. We just want to be the first ones to start the king side pawn storm. Alright, so that was just in the pawn to e6 line. We also covered bishop f5. Now, what if black plays pawn to c5 right in this position? You will see this move quite often, especially at advanced levels. Now, wait a second. How do you play against the reverse queen's gambit? Or simply against the c5 line? You play this in the Chigorin variation style. Always keep this in mind. So you go pawn to e4, intending to go e5 next, gaining more central space. That's why you're going to see black taking on d4 with their c-pawn, after which you take with your queen. Oh, Kaspa, but black can attack this queen with knight c6. Yeah, we know, but we have bishop b5, pinning this knight to the king. If bishop d7 and pinning the knight, now we can take it. In most cases, they are going to take with their b-pawn so that they can still maintain their center pawns. Now, let me show you something. The move that you want to play after this trade is pawn to e5. Not taking, okay? Taking on d5 just helps black to rearrange his pawns nicely. So you simply go e5, attacking the knight, let the knight go back. And then because of these plans by black, e6, pawn to c5, you go knight a4. Queen a5 is not a good move because we simply block the check with bishop d2. So you're going to see them play pawn to e6. Then you go knight c5, just occupying this square. Again, if queen f5 check, thinking they may win this knight, you just go bishop b4, attacking the queen and also defending the knight. This pawn will be defended by our queen on d4. So queen a5 check is not a possible move again. Not to mention that we still have initiative here. We can develop our knight on f3 and castle short, provided that we do not hang our pawn on h4. Thanks to this queen, which is defending this pawn. So after castling short, you may even see black taking this pawn, thinking it's a free pawn now. That's when we can take it with our queen. If we don't want to castle short, it's okay. We can also castle long by developing the dark squared bishop on d2. And later on put it on c3. So you should have a good game from here. Okay, let's go back to this position. We just played pawn to e4, playing this in the Chigorin style. Now, instead of c takes d4, you may see black taking with his d-pawn on e4. Let's say d takes e4 by black. Here you just continue with pawn to d5. That's the key move. This d5 move takes away these two important squares from black. So there are two most popular responses by black from here. Either pawn to a6, stopping bishop b5 check, or just neutralizing this pawn with the move pawn to e6. Let's start with pawn to e6 first. What do? I don't want you to be playing bishop b5, even though it is playable, but I don't just like this line, okay? So always remember this. After pawn to e6, you don't want to go bishop b5 check first, even though it is playable. So the only move that you should be thinking of is bishop g5. So you still go bishop g5 here. This is the move that we've been playing from the word go, if you remember. So bishop e7 is what they play. That's when you now give white a check. So they'll play bishop d2. Now this queen cannot see our pawn on d5. We take on a6 anyways. F takes e6 is going to be forced because we wanted to take with check. So bishop takes d7 check, queen takes, and then we take on f6. We always want to take on f6. Let black take our queen so that they can help us develop our rook to d1. Queen takes d1, rook takes, and then bishop takes f6. This is the position that you are going to get. And now we have equal number of pawns with a superior position. It's all about playing with pawns when it comes to this game. So back to this position. After d takes e4, I said just go pawn to d5. We saw what happens after pawn to e6. Now they may play the move pawn to s6. The top played move. Now whenever you see pawn to s6, the move that should always come into your mind is pawn to b5. That's why I always recommend pawn to a4 to stop pawn to b5. If b5 you take and take the rook. They are going to play e6. You still go bishop g5. If bishop e7, you know what to do. D takes e6. Since now you cannot give a check here. Well, if they take your queen, they are just helping you to reposition your rook on a better open file. So there's no advanced player that would do this anyways. F takes e6. Again, you can see these double pawns. We can just simply take on f6. After bishop takes, we take the other pawn. Now this time black may take on b2 because even if we go rook b1, we are not going to take on b7. But we have this move, pawn to c3, blocking this bishop. Maybe someday we are going to trap it with our king versus rook combo. Alright, now to end this video in style, I told you to say, after we play pawn to h4 here, you may see some of the unprepared opponents playing pawn to h5 to avoid lots of theory, just trying to copy your moves. Here you just go knight c3, and they are going to play knight f6. Knight c3 again is always the key move here. We still go bishop g5. If c5, you always play this in the Chigorin variation style, pawn to e4. Now one more line. After h5 we play knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5. You might not see black playing pawn to c5 here. They play pawn to e6 most of the times. So you still go pawn to e4. e4 is one of the key moves in this line. If d takes e4, you take back with your knight, putting more pressure on the f6 knight. Bishop e7, take it with your bishop. Again, Stockfish wants black to take with his g-pawn because he doesn't believe in castling short here. So bishop takes f6 is what you will see them playing, and then you play pawn to c3, fixing your queenside pawns. And this is the end of our video. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please, you already know what to do in order to keep on encouraging me working harder. So thank you for watching my video, and remember to check the link for my website in the description down below, where you can purchase all my courses at very affordable prices.